So guys, today we're talking about the one, the only, the 911, 911, baby! That's what I'm talking about, the 997 911. Let's go!
One shot, now the future is yours. Go! Yeah, I was building on the lecture. Verses coming deadly under pressure. Working on the plot, the scheme, the true stock trademark is at the edge of your dreams. I'm talking one.
I think it goes without saying that the Porsche 911 is one of the greatest, if not the greatest sports car ever created. And you guys, as you can see behind me, we have the 997 generation. It's my car. And as you can tell, the shape is instantly recognizable. Not only has this baddie been in production for over 5 decades, but with my biased opinion, I think the 997 has some of the best proportions ever. And not only that, but it is an insane value right now. Now, before I bought this car, I was looking at a few other opportunities as well. Specifically the B7 RS4, an E92 M3, and even a C6 Z06. But after driving all of those and even owning an E90 M3 previously, I realized that the 911 has the greatest balance of performance and refinement. And the thing that got me was the fact that it had everyday usability out of one of the best sports car chassis ever built. You see, this thing is just as much fun on a country road as it is commuting to and from work. Although I'm a YouTuber and I don't commute anywhere. Guys, just look at this thing. It has some of the best curb appeal out of any car, anytime, anywhere. And so I'm gonna go over these 6 reasons why you should buy this generation, the 997, 911 generation, because these things are only gonna continue to go up in value. Let's go. So it only makes sense that we start at the rear of this beautiful car, and that's the thing, is that the rear is exceptional and it is timeless 911. And as we come to the front of the car, the thing that this goes away from that, well, we all didn't really like with the 996, this is a throwback to the 993. A much better proportioned and better looking front end. Don't you agree? And personally, I feel like those headlights really stick out with that yellow wrap on it. In fact, I just think that the whole car sticks out considering that, well, it's it's blue. It's a wrap. It looks good. I think it looks good. And you can't even see it on this side because of the camo. Can you? Can you see it? All I see are trees and pavement. Oh, where did the Porsche go? And I really want to key in on those looks a little bit more because thinking about the 996, it was the first water-cooled 911, and they really tried to do something drastic, and the buzzword that they were using was cost-cutting. Yeah, Porsche was in a really bad spot when they came out with the 996 and the 986 Boxster. And if you want to learn more about the 996, go check it out up here. Essentially, the exterior looked like it was put in a microwave and left on for a little too long, and the interior looked like a mid-90s Taurus. But the 997, this beautiful thing, is completely different. The 997 returned to luxury and a more rounded aesthetic. And when you compare the proportions to the newer 991, which I think is a little too long, it's about 4 inches longer than the 997. Personally, I think head to head, the 997 is gonna be more of a classic than the 991 in a few decades. And when you open the door, even the interior looks way better than anything that came before it. It's sophisticated, but still refined. You really gotta hand it to the guys over at Porsche for what they were able to do with this 997 chassis. The looks are superb. Now, this is a 2006 911, and so they didn't get rid of the IMS RMS issue that the 2009 and newer 911 did. But believe it or not, I've had this car for now almost 3 years, and it is one of the most durable and easiest cars on the pocketbook that I have ever owned. That being said, I've owned some pretty expensive cars, but it actually has been one of the most reliable cars that I've ever driven. And yes, the power plant does have a failure rate of roughly 10%, but if you take care of it with an Allen engineering kit, you're gonna be just fine. Factor in about $2,500 into the buying price if you do find one that you wanna buy and it hasn't had it done. But other than that, for being a high performance sports car, this thing does everything and more that you want. which means we should probably talk a little bit about performance. Now, the one to buy personally is the 3.6 liter, so the base Carrera. And the reason why is that bore score is an issue, as well as the IMS, RMS, and the 3.6 actually has a lower failure rate than the 3.8 M97, which comes in the Carrera S. So I would get the 3.6, it's actually cheaper, and as far as performance, you really don't feel a difference from your butt dyno. I've driven both cars back to back, and I can't tell whether I'm driving a base or a Carrera S. Yes, it does sound a little bit better if you have the S, but realistically, the S and the base are so similar that I would just upgrade to a GT3, which you're in a totally different ballpark as far as pricing goes. So as far as performance, 0 to 60 in roughly 4.5 seconds. The 6-speed manual transmission is awesome. And if you do opt for an automatic transmission, that's the only time and really the only reason why I would say that you'd want to get a 997.2 instead of a 997.1 is because the 997.1, which is 05 to 08, came with a Tiptronic transmission, where the 2009, the 997.2, and newer came with the PDK, which is an awesome transmission. In fact, if I was to get a 997.2, I would actually get a PDK over a 6-speed manual, but that's another story for another day. The other thing that you have to remember about the 911 just in general is how light it is. It's only 3,200 pounds. So with over 300 horses to the wheels, this car isn't particularly fast, but it is quick. And the way I would put it is that it's more of a momentum car. You want to carry speed through the turns, and this thing does that oh so well. If I could hug it, I would. So the way I look at performance is you're not gonna get smoked by any brand new mid-tier sports car sedan, something like a Kia Stinger or something. You're gonna hold your own. Now, if you get a brand new 911 compared to this, yeah, it's gonna smoke it. So it's not the fastest, it's not the slowest, and with about 180 or so mile per hour top speed, not that I would know personally. FBI, open up! No, I don't know. This car will scare you. Now, the one thing I do want to note is that it is a rear engine car, which means that it has over 60% of the weight towards the back. And so the handling is a lot different than your normal sports car front engine, rear wheel drive. And what I mean by that is that when you're going through a turn, you do not want to lift off the throttle. Trust me on that. You don't want to lift off the throttle. Just don't do it. Okay, enough about that. Now, let's talk about practicality for a second. Yes, as you can see behind me is a flat 6. You would think is not conducive to being practical. You'd actually be wrong, because this thing, although it doesn't have a trunk per se, it does have a frunk. I don't know if I just made that up, but let me show it to you. Aha, this is where everything's hiding. Yeah, this actually is, well, there's a bunch of junk in here right now, but it's actually pretty deep down there, and you can fit a bunch of stuff, a few suitcases in here, but this kind of feels like a clown car because inside you have foldable rear seats. Let me show you. See back here, you can see that the 2 seats are folded down and you can pretty much put anything here. Back there you have space as well. And then if you want,
German engineering in the house, yeah.
Just like that, bam, you got room for 2 other passengers. Now, believe it or not, it's actually a lot more comfortable in here than you would expect. And I prefer to ride back here and let my friends drive. Well, actually, I don't. And why isn't this working? Help! Well, it's for like small children back here, age just like 6 and below. I'm too old for this. So I was actually really impressed by how much space he had in the front and then also in the rear, as long as you didn't have any, small children riding with you. And YouTube girlfriend, who's now my fiance, and I, we have taken this on long weekend trips with just that, which was a ton of fun, and we actually felt like there was plenty of room. But if you are running into a pinch with how much capacity you can hold in your 911, well, I have a rooftop rocket launcher that I throw on there, and that pretty much doubles the amount of stuff that I can throw up there. The one thing, and you've been warned, is that if you do something similar, the taste police at the PCA might get a little bit mad, but you know what? I mean, to each their own. One of the other things, and I already believe the 997 911 is one of the best values for any sports car under $30,000. The steering feel of the 997 is superior to the 991. And the reason why is because this is hydraulic and the 991, it's electric. The way that I would describe it, because I've driven both extensively, is that the 997 feels like a vinyl record. You kind of feel all the bumps and grooves in the road, and there's that sweet sound, that kind of shh sound from a vinyl record that you just can't replicate in digital. And that's exactly it. With the 991, with the electric steering, well, it feels like a CD or an MP3. And although it's not bad by any means, it's just no 997. But it's not just that. The 997 is just a little bit more analog, and it feels a lot more like their older brothers, the air-cooled 911s. I spent a ton of time, 5 years in a G-body, an 85 3.2 Carrera, and this car feels a lot like that car. It's a lot of fun to drive. It does have some nannies, it has stability control, but it isn't in your face with technology like the newer generation 911s are. And I think that that's just why I love this car so much, is because although I almost fell over, it feels so good when you're driving it. It's just a very pure and raw experience, one that I think is now lost with the newer generations, with all the technology and everything else, kind of prohibiting you from just feeling that raw expression from those Germans. It's just that good. So one of my favorite things to talk about is price. And if you want to learn how to buy your ideal 911 or any ideal car, go check out the Ideal Car Strategies. It's exactly what I used on this car, and it has been nothing but so awesome owning it. And the reason you should buy a 997.1 Carrera is because of the price point. Like I said earlier, it is probably the best sports car under $30,000 out there right now. In fact, in the comments, let me know a better sports car under 30 grand than this. I mean, check out this 2006 with roughly 80,000 miles on it for under 25 grand. That is an ideal deal, if I do say so myself. Yes, the 997 issue is hyped, and well, it does affect a lot of the cars, but I think that that is what's gonna keep the prices down. And for 2,500 bucks, you get the LN Engineering kit and you're good to go. Or, well, you're like me and this has 100,000 miles on it without the kit, and guess what? It's going strong. I'm gonna go for another 100K, and I think I'm gonna change up the look of this car quite a bit. So if you're not already subscribed to this channel, go hit that subscribe button down below. And if you like this video, hit the like button. There's a lot of Porsche and other ideal content all over this channel. And as always, keep living that ideal lifestyle.